And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On this wonderful Friday, I thought I'd change things up a little bit. Instead of doing the normal Road 10,000 Hours, I believe I'm on episode 20, I decided to do this design episode where I just sort of build this little project and take it on some test flights. This design I got today is sort of a vertical takeoff and landing idea. It had been going around in my head all day, so I wanted to give it a try. So first things out, I'm gonna lay down my usual remote control antenna, put some gyroscopes so that it can orient. And as I'm building out, I realize the remote control is in the wrong direction, as well as I don't have any batteries. So I drop those on. I'm trying to balance this because I'm going to be putting a central cargo in the middle, and I want that to hold in about an entire cargo's worth of iron ingots. That's what I want. But during design testing, that's going to change a little bit. So there isn't actually a way to place it with the large industrial, and I wanted to use the large industrial. So I have to throw down the hydrogen tank first, which is only mildly important to note because it tells me how things are connected. So if I were to cut along where those blocks hit the middle of the hydrogen tank, if I were to take that lane out, it would then disconnect the whole grid. So it's just a minor thing to think of. Now I also throw down two of the large atmospheric thrusters because once I get down to, let's say, a couple hundred meters or so, I want the atmospheric thruster to keep the whole frame working. And then I go ahead and lay down my 4 advanced rotors, taking care to align them so that 0 degree is down and 180 degrees is up relative to the vehicle itself. Then I go ahead and throw on these large hydrogen thrusters. So I want this design, I want to see how much in mass I can actually take off from Earth to orbit with these large hydrogen thrusters. For the landing, just to like test things out, I'm going to have the atmospheric thrusters along, but in the final design, which I'm not doing for this episode, I'll probably do it for episode 2, is going to be all hydrogen. So I go ahead and figure out what sort of angle I'm going to need for these rotors. Right. I label all my rotors, then I go figure out the angles. So because of how Space Engineers programs their rotors, you have this sort of plus or minus velocity, which is I haven't figured out. I guess I haven't really paid attention enough to it to figure out when that's supposed to be left or right. I just kind of guess. And then I just plug it in and see whatever works. What I might do in the next design is reorient all the rotors so that they're all the same. So I can put the same velocity into all the rotors. But in this case, I have 2 that are set at negative rotation and 2 that are set at positive rotation, and it's fluctuating between 0 and 90 degrees and 270 and 360 degrees. So that's how it works. While having the rotors moving, the whole thing started flipping, so I threw on a little ion jetpack to keep it stable. Now I'm just plugging up my toolbar so that I can have some semblance of control while I'm flying it down. I make a group for all the rotors setting up for a reverse and a lock, so I can lock them in place or reverse all of them, which should allow them to flip out. That's the plan. And then I put the rear thrusters in their own group and the forward thrusters in their own group, and I set them to thrust overrides. So that way I should be able to hit the override and see I think I've triggered the forward ones, so now it's pushing me back. And I should be able to just fly it like that. Kind of like, it's not really pressing a pedal, it's more like setting cruise control on your car. So once I fly out of my little construction wheel, I'm ready to take this thing towards the planet. Oh, nope, sorry. Wrong direction. All right. Now we're going towards the planet. And while going towards the planet, I test out my rotor group, and it seems to be working. They all seem to be moving towards their new 0, which I had to set individually for each rotor. And there just doesn't seem to be any problems. Now, of course, because I want this thing to land, I go ahead and throw on the little landing gear. And then we're back in the control seat and trying to make everything work. Oh, and I increased the speed because 0.1 was really, really slow. And I'm not sure how fast I'm going to be coming in. But at first, it's pretty slow. It's pretty slow. Okay, I finally get tired of the slow, so I just flip upside down and kind of go into a crash maneuver. And then I move the thrusters out of the way to make life difficult for me, which brings me up to about 200 meters per second, which is double the vanilla speed. But then as I click the rotor group again and start bringing those large rotors down, and I bleed off speed beautifully. I basically reach a control altitude within a couple of seconds. It really wasn't bad. I was expecting it to be far worse. So that was a good sign. Then once I'm low enough, I go ahead and hit my Z, and now I'm under mostly atmospheric control. So I'll go ahead and just bring the frame over to the lake and land there because it's a flat surface, and I'll be able to do the next part. Because landing while the whole system is empty, it's only weighing 281,000 kilograms or 281 megagrams. Now I want to see what happens when we got this guy full of metal. So in order to do that, I set up a little base. I cheat in some iron ingots, and then I pump it in through to the vehicle. I try to fill up the tanks, but I only get it up to like 47% or something before I'm like, all right, let's get this going, guys. I go into control. I realize I got rid of the control seat as well as all the atmospheric engines, and so now it's just a hydrogen ship. So I have to go back and kind of reprogram things. But now I should be able to just fly, basically. Oh yeah, I throw these on there because once I'm in actual orbit, I'm going to need something other than those large hydrogen thrusters in order to fly. All right. I go ahead and put everything into group so it's easier to control. I'm at 47% full. Yep, it's not filling up anymore, so I'll just go ahead and get ready to fly. All right, go ahead and start increasing power, and we are not moving. Not at all. I go into the inventory, and I basically start dumping iron ingots. I'm at 3.2 million, and it's down around 2.7 million kilograms that this whole vehicle starts to take off. And I'm like, yeah, but it is very slow. Very slow. Yeah, we're getting about 5 meters per second at one gravity, and then it just stops. So I keep dumping until I reach about two. I think the total ship was about 2.7. Yeah. I keep dumping until the ship is 2.7 million kilograms, which is 2,700 megagrams or 2.7 gigagrams. And at that point, we start actually flying with a good pace. Had to do a lot of stabilization because as I was dumping that iron, it filled up the inventory in the connector, which started unbalancing the whole vehicle. But yeah, once I got things leveled out, it flew really nicely. But again, I don't have the design optimized for speed. So I was just kind of sitting around waiting for it to actually reach the altitudes that I wanted it to. And then I had this little accident. Oh. And whee! Yeah. I kind of wish I could put Mario sounds in, but I feel like I'm too small, too insignificant to risk the ire of Nintendo. But I managed to get back on the vehicle. I get it up to orbit and go ahead and stop it. And then I'm thinking about the redesign. So this frame seemed to have worked. Now I want to think about moving these rotors, because I have the rotors connected up to the hydrogen thruster like this, but I'm thinking maybe I'll put the hydrogen thruster back a block. But then where do I want my rotor? Do I want it right along the spine, or do I want it distended like this? You know, because yeah. And then probably more gyroscopes, probably hide a few things. I'm thinking these sort of thruster packs that allow for maneuverability, I'm going to rip them off the sides and put them on the top. And so that'll be where I get my forward when I need to at different altitudes. But overall, I think it's pretty good. I don't like these large magnetic blocks, but I think I'll probably do something smaller and put it off to the sides, so it kind of looks like a four-winged, four-legged creature. Yeah. But other than that, it was pretty good. Oh, I'm gonna condense the thrusters because I had the two thrusters. I had the forward and rear separated, so I kept on having to like press two buttons at the same time in order to not spiral the whole ship out of control. So I might condense that down to just one set, and then that'll make that a whole lot easier for at least the ascent and for the ascent portion. But then once I actually get into space, I'll need to separate it out again. And I'm thinking I've got 2.4 million in cargo, and the ship itself is 2.7 million total. I think I'm going to sort of set I'm going to have like this is the normal cargo level so that I can keep this thing kind of safe. So I might just set for myself a limit of 2 million. But yeah, this was a successful design, a successful test launch. And then I guess next time on another one of these design episodes, I'll have a more, probably won't be the skin version. It'll probably just be the actual I want to fly this design, and then I'll do a version with the skin on it. That sounds kind of wrong. I'm going to put the skin on it later. But anyways, Thanks, y'all, for sticking around. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you all next time. Cheers.